Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jack's second favourite time of the year. We are in transfer window territory. I usually like the summer because usually bigger transfers happen. But sometimes January can whip out some crazy transfers all by itself. Before I go any further, I'd like to just first of all, from me and James, thank absolutely everybody. We hit 800 subscribers. Again, it's a drop in the water. I know it's not the biggest deal ever, but for me and James, it's a really, really big deal. And we really appreciate everybody's support, viewership, subscribing, liking, commenting. You guys are the best. We love you. Road to 1,000 though. If you are watching and you're not subscribed,
let's get that 1,000 going, guys, please.
Go check. We want those 4 digits. So if you're not subscribed, do scroll down, do check us out, and hit that subscribe button, hit the bell as well, get those notifications, like, comment, do all that good algorithm stuff. But James, transfer window time. It's fun, right? It's exciting. We like all this stuff, especially if you're an Arsenal fan and especially if you're linked to somebody quite seriously, an Italian holding midfielder, Jorginho from rivals Chelsea. What are you making of this Jorginho thing? As an Arsenal fan, where do you stand on potentially signing Jorginho? Is that a good thing, a bad thing? 6 months left on his deal, not really been in good form for about 18 months or so. What do you make of this?
Jack, I don't know how to feel about it, but the first thing in my head is that I'm disappointed that we've come to this far in the window and like we haven't signed a midfielder. The fact that we're touching January 1st with 24 hours left to the window, it's almost feel like we're just rushing to seeing whoever is available and we're just going for him.
In the same city.
There's this weird thing for Arsenal fans about signing Chelsea rejects. As we said, we've seen it with Petr Cech, we've seen it with Willian, David Luiz. The fact that we're going to go through another one who seems to be unwanted by Chelsea makes me feel a certain type of way. We've been burnt on a number of occasions right now, so it isn't a thing where I'm jolly good wrench and I'm oh yeah, bring him in and everything like that. I'm a bit odd and a bit weird about that because I've grown to actually appreciate what Jorginho does. Right. Physically off the ball, I don't think he's the greatest, but on the ball, in terms of view of recycling the ball, there isn't too many better in the Premier League and also in the world. He is top tier. That is the reason why Guardiola wanted him in the first place. Why he would probably get into most teams, especially like a Barcelona, a Bayern, for a star. But I just look at a player like Thomas Partey and I look at his skill sets and like his profile overall. Then I look at Jorginho and I'm like, there's two completely different things. If he gets injured, how lightweight we would be in transition would really worry me, because the biggest thing for me, how many times you see Arsenal lose the ball in transition and it's Thomas Partey picking up the pieces and winning the ball back. That isn't Jorginho's biggest game. And people might throw up a stat, oh, Jorginho has this many interceptions, this and that. And I go, cool. But that doesn't work out for me because I need to see it properly,
Right. I have kind of mixed feelings about it because it depends what he's going to be and what he's going to do. Like my prediction would be that he's going to be a sub. Like he's going to just be a backup rotation option for you. Maybe he plays club games. Maybe if somebody's dealing with a little bit of a tight hamstring, he can just come in, play a couple games. If he's coming in to play that role, I really like that. Same with Trossard, James. I like the value. He's not going to be a starter, probably. Like I kind of like that. For you guys. Jorginho, I think the same way. Again, if he's on the bench and you're looking at, you've got Trossard on the bench, you've got Jorginho on the bench, Takehiro Tomiyasu on the bench. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a decent, okay, it's not top tier, but there is a decent coverage basically, just in case one of your guys goes down or it's just a case of protecting them going forward. I think the big thing though for me would be in somebody potentially, and I guess I'll bring this other person in now as well, Moises Caicedo, you've got somebody who'd potentially be like asking, pushing to start for this team. Would you not think?
I do think Jorginho right now is a much better player than Moises Caicedo. I didn't know as much of Moises Caicedo till now. I don't understand Arsenal's big push for the guy. I feel like
that amount of money.
The money that I'm seeing, Jack, 80-odd million pounds. So people may say, Ben, what? I get it, but this one, we've seen Bissouma's move to Tottenham, and to a certain point, like he hasn't quite hit the expectations. Is he that much better than Bissouma, Jack? I don't think so, and I feel like we'll be just rushing to sign somebody for signing someone's sake. I would preferably rather go for a Jorginho than a Moises Caicedo. I'm not saying Caicedo isn't a good player, but Jack, for that value,
I know.
I guarantee you, Jorginho's 6 months left on his deal. Yeah. 6 months left on his deal. Now, if we're paying like anything over 10 million, then
Oh.
I'll be shaking my head.
Jesus, even like for me, seriously, anything north of like 3, I'd be like, oh, hang on a minute, guys, what are we doing here? What are we playing at? What I
No,
will
but
say,
it's reported Chelsea want a decent amount, you know, so it's...
man, I don't know if I'd pull that trigger. I think you go into your scouting network. If you can pull somebody like Gabriel Martinelli out of the bag from God knows where, then I'm sure you've got a midfielder scouted somewhere who you'd be able to do that for better value. Anyway, that's just my view. What I did want to bring on to though, and James, selfishly, I'm going to commandeer this part of the video. I'm not really very happy with Brighton though. I've got to be honest with you. I'm really kind of unhappy with Brighton because, guys, football, it's a sport, and yes, okay, these players inherently have value, they're assets, blah, blah, blah. They're worth a certain thing. And, you want to do what's best for your team. But there are human beings that are attached to these players. Now, James had quite rightly said it, and I actually agree with James here. 60, 70 million is an insane amount of money for Moises Caicedo, an insane amount of money. Probably more than double what I think is actually a fair fee. Even if it was 35 mil, I'd still be going, that's a good amount of money for a guy who, like you said, James, we know a bit about, we don't know loads about just yet, especially at a top level, especially in an Arsenal team, which are going to be a Champions League team going forward for the next couple of years, you'd imagine as well. And Moises Caicedo had this to say after the bid was rejected. I'm grateful to Mr. Bloom and Brighton for giving me the chance to come to the Premier League. I feel I've always done the best for them. I always play football with a smile and with heart. I'm the youngest of 10 siblings from a poor upbringing in Santo Domingo in Ecuador. My dream always to be the most decorated player in the history of Ecuador. I'm proud to be able to bring in a record transfer fee for Brighton, which would allow them to reinvest and help the club continue to be successful. The fans have taken me into their hearts. They will always be in my heart, so I hope they can understand why I want to take up this magnificent opportunity. I think that's beautifully written. I don't know if that's from him or I don't know if it's from his team, but I think he kind of touches on all the right points there. You're getting a record fee for Brighton. You're changing your life and moving to a football club like Arsenal, paying this big fee. It's like one of these win-win-win type things here. So for me, I'm really disappointed in Brighton not accepting that deal. From a footballing standpoint, James, I think you and I can probably agree it's probably better for Arsenal that you didn't accept that deal for 70 million, because that's a lot.
I think Arsenal won that one. If I'm being honest, if
not for lack of
that's the case,
not for lack of trying though. But like, my point is, he says everything there. You've got this great opportunity to change this, this person's life and his family and his community and stuff. And I guess purely, if we're being honest, out of greed, it's not been accepted that way. And that's, I think, a real shame.
I wouldn't even say greed. I think it's more of a pride thing.
Right.
The fact that a player is going to almost like force a team's hand. If they're not interested in selling them, ultimately they're not interested in selling them. Sometimes, Jack, we have to look at it from the bigger picture of that. Yeah, like as you mentioned, with a team's value of a player, their value could be like, this player could be the difference between us staying in the Premier League. He could be the difference between us finishing 5th or, I don't know, 8th in the Premier League. And like, how much money you get for finishing higher. You know,
I think you and I talked about this, right? If Mitrovic was not playing for Fulham, I think you're looking at probably like a 40 million pound striker, like a good striker, right? Somebody's going to score you goals, do all this stuff. To Fulham, that's an 100 million pound player. Fulham are not picking up a replacement for Alexander Mitrovic out of nowhere. And like you said, it's the value that the player represents. But yeah, sorry for commandeering that part of the video. I just wanted to throw it out there. I just thought that was important from Caicedo, and it's a shame that he couldn't get his move. Anyway, James, one player that was a bit of a shock, and that we've got a here we go on this one. João Cancelo, arguably the best right back in the world. And, I've said this, but by the time he came in from Juventus to join Pep Guardiola, to me, this is exactly what Pep needs out of a fullback. I think we saw that over the past few seasons that he's been in Manchester. But James, João Cancelo now joining a right back room with Mazraoui, with Joshua Kimmich, and with Pavard and Bayern Munich. This came out of nowhere. What do you make of this?
This is the most boss thing Pep Guardiola has ever did as a manager. I feel like if you must be any football player in that Man City dressing room, you must be careful on how you look at him, how you speak to him, because who cares how good you are? Jack, you must understand this right now. It's been a consensus from a lot of football fans, a lot of media, coaches, and that João Cancelo's arguably the best fullback in the world.
Right.
Yeah, he was playing at a level last season people didn't believe. I remember every time he would have a cross with the outsider over his foot, or he would do his skill. People were like, how is he playing on right back? He's this, he's that. Pep Guardiola's wet, all that stuff. The fact that Pep says, you know what, we had a disagreement. It's time for you to go, and did not even blink. Because Jack, you must understand that this hasn't been a thing that it's been thought of. Man City thought about this 6 months ago in a previous transfer window. This has just happened, and they would have spoke to Guardiola, be like, listen, we don't want to let him go. No, he said this. I don't want him part of this football team anymore. Get rid. Because this is something that's came out of absolutely nowhere. Bayern Munich heard, what? João Cancelo's available? How much? Bring him in. But Guardiola said, I don't need you. I'm going to move on. And fair play to him on that side of it, because to me, that's strong. That's being able to be a strong manager. We've seen player power being able to take over football from the point of view of Jose Mourinho in Manchester United and how that affected him. But Guardiola showing that no one's bigger than him in that football team. And fair play
James,
to him.
It's the perfect person to do it. I can't think of a better candidate really in world football who would illustrate the fact that there's one boss in Manchester City, right? There's one boss wearing that light blue in Manchester, and that's Pep Guardiola. And I think to be fair, we've seen a couple decent showings of that kind of power lately, which is really good, because I think managers should ultimately hold the power. I think it's a shame for Man City. I think it's a shame for the Premier League. I think it's a shame for Premier League fans. But at the end of the day, I think João Cancelo got to a point where he was a bit big for his boots. But James, probably quite rightly so. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he didn't have his merits. Like, I think if he thinks he's a big deal, it's because, James, he kind of is a big deal within the greater respects of what he's doing. He's the better performing position. He's had a lot of success.
But Jack, you must understand, I feel like in the last 6 months or so, you've seen he's been dropped from the Portuguese team, lost his place in the Manchester City side. So I feel like his thing about his stock was kind of going down. It wasn't like it was. I remember there's a certain point in last year where you were looking at him being a top 10 Ballon d'Or candidate. But I think it's a loss for City. I can't say it's a win-win for it. See, at the end of the day, a lot of people in that City team are crying to see that he won't be a part of this team anymore. Right. Even his teammates are probably upset, but to Guardiola, it's for the greater good. But the one thing I'm going to say for City is that they've been able to get 75 million euros for him.
Right.
That's not too shabby, Jack.
It is optional, though. I will always say that it's optional, and it's with a football team that don't like using big transfer fees on players, like especially at the fullback position, which is already pretty stacked. I know.
Well, Jack, they paid how much for Pavard?
Yeah, no, they did. But James, there's a guy leaving on a free transfer supposedly come the summer, right? So unless he gets a move this in January, like in the next couple, few hours here, then there's a stacked right back room, as I've already said. James, you talked about a player whose stock was going down. I want to move on to a player whose stock has never been higher, and we can, I guess, maybe debate this. I think we'll probably agree, but I guess we'll find out over the next couple of minutes. Enzo Fernandez, Chelsea breaking the bank, getting another bank, breaking into that bank to potentially get this one over the line. Benfica's position has always been 120 mil. He's yours. You take him. Anything less, we're not considering it. There were talks, it fell through. There were talks, it fell through. Chelsea are moving in this transfer window, absolutely moving. It brings up a wider conversation in terms of the overwhelming power of the Premier League and its financial power. But I want to ask you, Enzo Fernandez, this kind of money, doesn't sit right with me. I don't know if the guy's worth it. I was impressed at the World Cup, but I wasn't impressed to a point where I'm looking at the most valuable central midfielder of all time kind of impressed. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I think Chelsea needed a midfielder for many years. I like what Enzo Fernandez is as a midfielder and what he can become. As you mentioned, Jack, transfer fees. It's getting ridiculous now. It's getting the fact that, okay, you look at an English player and you're someone like Declan Rice and people can say, if he's worth that, how much is Declan Rice worth?
Right.
Generally, Declan Rice is like a 25 to 30 million pound player. I'll be truthfully honest. Yeah. Enzo Fernandez, 25, 20 mil. You know, the fact that we're throwing these crazy amounts and Premier League teams just are paying the money. Fair play. I feel like Chelsea, what I don't understand about it is that it's a thing where they've been just kind of waiting to realize, okay, this team isn't going to budge, so we need to do something about it. And they're doing something about it now. The one thing about Chelsea that if you're a Chelsea fan, that you do have to appreciate is that they love to get stuff done here and now. Because if they would have waited to the summer, Jack, I feel like it would have been a little bit more harder to get over the line. Why? Because Manchester United would have came in with a lot of money too. Right. Don't know what's going to happen with other clubs too. So I think for Chelsea, the fact that they're getting it done now is a good thing. But are they overpaying? Of course.
But do you not look at the players and go what's going on here? Do you know what I mean? When most football teams, when I see them sign somebody, I go, I see what they're doing. I get it. That makes sense. Chelsea is just shooting in the dark. I don't in terms of player profile, style, there's nothing to me that screams, that's going to work well because of this. The dots don't connect to me with the way Chelsea have done business.
My thing is that I can clearly see that Todd Bowley wants to get rid of everything Roman Abramovich has done and create a new Chelsea. That's why he got rid of Thomas Tuchel. That's why you've seen a lot of Chelsea players who were under Abramovich, like Ziyech, who's on his way out. Gallagher probably will be on his way out too. Jorginho apparently is going to join Arsenal. You can see that he's trying to just get rid and bring in this whole new Chelsea, but it just feels like a guy who just been told he's good, get him by any means possible. And football teams know about Todd Bowley's bank. They know about what he's willing to do, and they're taking advantage of that. It feels sad when I look at him, it feels sad for me watching it, because it's just like Chelsea are being heist. Because even if these guys go on to be good players for Chelsea, Jack, the price tags are astronomical. That Jack, they're going to need to do what Cristiano Ronaldo did for Real Madrid. That's the sort of level of performance that we're expecting.
And James, the contract length too, it scares me. People go deals. I just don't.
Financial fair play. Could you imagine, let's say, if this guy turns into this horrible injury like Eden Hazard did for Real Madrid, and have him on the books for God knows how long? I don't know. Because to me, it's that, okay, for all that money that you're going to spend on one midfielder there, you still need another one. Because what's going to happen with N'Golo Kante? You know, you still need a little bit of cover here, there. Chelsea have a lot of players who, to me, need to be recycled. The fact you spent all that money on this one guy, could you imagine if you want to get another player? Chelsea going for a Moses Caicedo. You add that up right there. Jack, you're looking at close to $250 million on 2 to 3 midfielders, which is crazy.
I will say, and I was speaking with friends about this recently, there is a lot of trickery that you can kind of mess around with within footballing finance. And James, I'm sure at uni you did a couple modules on this as well. There's a lot that professional football can get away with just to be tricky with their finances, to get away with things. And obviously one of the big ones is player amortization, right? The idea being all of this stuff that Chelsea is doing is not paid up in one upfront fee and then, okay, great. It's no, it will be paid in installments. There'll be certain dates that have been done, certainly. So depending on how the financial year begins and ends and how it works, right, the player's contract will be extended over a longer period of time so that it covers more periods in which financial fair play takes place. Clubs, the big one I remember was, if clubs are in debt, it's actually a good thing. Because, James, if you make money and you get big profits, you're going to be taxed on those profits. But what are you not taxed on? You're not taxed on if you're paying off your old debts. So that's why football clubs like being in debt, because they have to pay less tax. There's so many shady, dodgy things that football clubs are allowed to get away with, which I think on, publicly, I don't think people are necessarily aware of. But again, this is what Chelsea are going to do. They're just going to keep doing it. And if teams are willing to pay £45 million for Conor Gallagher, then they're probably going to keep getting away with it.
For everything that's good about it, it looks like it will catch up with them one day.
Well, again, we're going to see what happens with Barcelona in the next year or so, right? We're going to see, supposedly there's stuff going on with Manchester United. There's clubs being bought, clubs being sold. Juventus are being docked points left, right, and centre. So, like, you know, with a lot of these teams, it is catching up. James, we've obviously only got a couple minutes left here on this kind of transfer topic video. I want to kind of, I guess, talk about a broader point here with the power of the Premier League and where it leaves these other leagues. I mean, James, Chelsea have outspent all the other leagues combined in this January transfer window, and that's not just the Premier League has outspent all these other leagues. One team in the Premier League has done that. This summer, it's going to be the same thing. And again, everybody, the face of the European Super League right here looking at you, we need reform in football. We need reform in football because people go, oh no, the European Super League. The European Super League exists. It's called the Premier League. And we're seeing it happen right now. So just want to hear your thoughts on the financial dominance of the Premier League at the moment.
It feels cool to a certain point, but not really. I feel like PSG, yes, they have a lot of money. Maybe they're the one team that can compete. Barcelona and Real Madrid, we go for them because of the historical value of it. Bayern Munich, I feel like they have their historical value, but they could be left behind. It's getting ridiculous.
Yes.
Like, the fact that I can look at a team like, let's just say, I don't want to mention Newcastle because we know the money. Like, a team like Everton.
James, Bournemouth had a bid accepted for Nicolo Zaniolo. How do you think that makes me feel? Like, I'm not trying to be rude to Bournemouth or Bournemouth fans or anything. Like, one of the best players in my team, which should be a Champions League, hopefully battling team, maybe with Jose Mourinho, sneak an Italian league title, right? What, Bournemouth are able to buy Nicolo Zaniolo? What the hell's going on?
I feel like there needs to be some legislation going on. La Liga for many years, and especially La Liga president mentions, he points the finger at Premier League teams and PSG so much. But it's got to a point right now where the rich generally get richer, and Premier League teams are becoming so out of sight that you may go the next 4 or 5 years of football. Not only will they damage it, but there may not be any point of having the Champions League.
But what I will say, though, this is the one thing I will say, and I know a lot of people don't believe in the trickle-down effect, whether that's politically, economically, but I think within football, I do believe that it does work, right? If 120 million euros goes to Benfica, Benfica will receive 120 million euros. It's pretty good going. And with the players that they can sign and develop and maybe they could sell another player in the future for that kind of money. I'm not saying it's brilliant. I'm just saying it is a factor, right? The Premier League, that they're not spending their money in-house so the rich stay rich. They are giving it to other leagues to bring in these players.
Yeah, but Jack, they're giving them. Benfica's always been a team who players seem to just go off. You know, a close will come and take, but it's going to get to a point where's this team going to go? Are they just going to want to keep on developing players? At some point, you want to compete. At some point, you want to win titles.
Champions League, right.
As much as they see all this great stuff, you ask their football fans right now, would you rather see all these players go for these hundreds of millions or win a European trophy, which they haven't won in over 30, 40 years, Jack? You know, for all this stuff about, oh, they get this money in, you having this money, would you still be able to compete with them long term?
Exactly.
You know, Jack, what Napoli are doing right now is incredible, and I would love to see a Napoli go on to win the Champions League. But do I see it long term? No.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy with my team Arsenal that we don't go crazy, like we haven't hit that 100 million on a player yet, because to me that sort of money is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
That to me 100 million or 80 or something should be for the best of the best for the best. Do you remember when Bale went, when Ronaldo went? Before that, it was Zidane the all-time, Kaká. We're talking about Ballon d'Or, best players in the world. Now 100 million get you Jack Grealish
or Moises Caicedo. Anyway, look, guys, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. It's a big conversation. It's a big and a diverse conversation at that. There are a lot of factors in terms of the financial side of football, which impact this conversation. And it's not just a quick little 5-minute one for me and James to do. There's a hell of a lot that you need to work through. Guys, let us know your thoughts. Jorginho, Moises Caicedo, right? Who else do we bring up? João Cancelo. Who was our last one as well?
Enzo.
and Enzo Fernandez. Guys, let us know your thoughts on all those players. Give us a shout in the comments. Like I say, really appreciate the 800 subscribers, and obviously going forward as well, maybe get us to 1,000. If you're not subscribed, go and check. James, anything else from you, mate?
Like, share, and subscribe, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.